Okay. Well, I guess I will call to order the September 9th, 2014 meeting of the Old Town Planning Board. And item 2 is to approve the minutes of the May 13th, 2014 and June 10th, 2014 meeting.
Make a motion to approve those minutes as given to us.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you, Dave.
Sorry for the delay on the May 13th. That was a challenge, too. Going back over my notes and trying to remember
You
what.
wrote them in shorthand.
I know.
What did we say? Yeah. Okay. So, the
Not here.
only item on the agenda tonight is the discussion of the zoning ordinance amendments to allow medical marijuana registered dispensaries and medical marijuana cultivation facilities, case number 1516. And you should all have a handout that Dave sent out to us regarding the ordinance.
Yes.
You want to take it over, Dave?
I will. Dave Russell, Code Officer. Back last fall, we were faced as a community with a grow operation downtown and a second one that was looking to move into the downtown area. We looked through ordinances and determined that wasn't an appropriate use for downtown. They have since left, and it prompted the city council to put forth a moratorium, 180-day moratorium. After that point, it was my task to come up with language for medical marijuana registered dispensary and medical marijuana cultivation facility ordinance, and that's what's before you tonight. In Exhibit 1, and some of this is boilerplate that I borrowed from a previous life, that meets with all the state standards and mirrors their definitions under state statute. The first is for medical marijuana registered dispensary. It's a not-for-profit entity. Do you want me to read this, or are you good with?
Well, I've looked through it before. Is there anything we need to call attention to? or-
Unless any of you have questions, I would say, because there's a lot of reading here.
Okay,
But
so.
it basically gives you the definition for the medical marijuana registered dispensary and main medical marijuana cultivation facility.
Right.
They are both not-for-profit, which are defined under Title 22 MRSA, Section 2411, 2428, Section 6, Title 22, 10144 CMR, Chapter 22, and that follows through for both definitions.
Okay, so that's what medical marijuana registered dispensary and cultivation facilities are, by definition.
That is correct.
Okay,
And as you'll notice, as the same, maybe amended from time to time, this way we don't keep coming back here. When the state's language may be modified, that will be what our definition is.
okay, so that's the intention, is to follow the state.
Correct.
Definition. Why, just curious, does it specify not-for-profit?
That was the state's language.
Okay,
I think it would, I think that was the state's way of saying that this is a good thing. It's not for somebody to make all kinds of money, but as we all know, not-for-profit.
There is gonna be some profit.
A lot of people are very wealthy running nonprofit organizations. So
yeah, I know.
That's my opinion.
They're doing it out of the goodness of their heart, though. I mean,
Yes.
that's the intention, I understand. Okay,
Exhibit 2 is merely the parking standards, which we needed. This
for either facility?
Yes. And the intent of this ordinance is, and as you read further, this will be housed under one roof, much like the one that's in Brewer, where they have both the cultivation area.
And the dispensary.
Because for this type of cultivation, it's not an outdoor really an outdoor activity. There's a lot of science that does go into this. And what I've done here is a medical marijuana registered dispensary and/or medical marijuana cultivation facility. Parking areas must be screened to the standards identified in 1024, number 9, which is in the ordinance, with the exception of front yard screening. I've held that down to 1 tree per 50 feet in order to give the facility visibility for the police to be able to monitor. And as we go further into it, you'll notice that whatever they get licensed for, they will have no more clients in there, in that building. When they tell me they're gonna have 50 clients, and the waiting room is that, those 50 people, they're not all gonna be there at the same time. But there's no outside milling around. It's gonna be
They've got to be inside.
held to inside.
There's not gonna be any big sign, sale on marijuana.
No, they'll be able to have signage,
No
which is
sidewalk
allowed.
sales. Okay.
In Exhibit 3, we've introduced it under number 5 as a use permitted. And then when you get to Section E for site plan, they will follow our site plan ordinance, but this goes down to further add some teeth to it. And again, accommodating sufficient interior space so not to have outside patient queuing on sidewalks, parking area, or other outside area of building or buildings. We're gonna require that their dispensary waiting area has a minimum of 15 square foot per person based on the total client capacity. And that would be the registered clients with their caregivers. And it's a little confusing because each caregiver can have 6 plants and 6 patients. So it could be a large facility, but they tend not to be because of the growth of the plants and the way that they roll them over.
Is this from the state also?
This is, yeah. The 15 square foot, no. That's, I've talked with the fire chief and some of my counterparts, and again, in my past life, this was something that was used. And that's just a typical, in the NFPA, you're looking at standing room square footage that's required, it is 15 square feet.
It falls within that.
Yes, it does. As we go further along, I've set parameters for distances from pre-existing public or private schools, and that would be from the front entrance of a facility to the front entrance of a school, a minimum of 1,000 feet. We've gone on 500 feet from the entrance of pre-existing church, synagogue, or other facility for religious worship, pre-existing private residence, and pre-existing licensed daycare. And again, this is looking at a multitude of ordinances written for this type of use.
Now, is this use, could this be combined with, say, like a methadone clinic or anything else like that, or is
No.
this? No. This is all that's all it.
This is it.
Okay.
And for those distances, it's how you would drive there from point A to point B or walk there. They can't shrink that up by, well, we go this way to get here. And
Okay.
number 3.
Measured horizontal distance or along the ground?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's standards horizontal. Why would private residents be in here?
Because on Stillwater, we do have private residents still in existence out there.
Is there any place where this
This is
is
pretty
possible?
much,
Is there?
Oh, yeah.
this out in the Willy Wags, right?
No, Stillwater.
Going out on the Kirkland Road.
No.
Well, that's where it's gonna force these to be though, right? 500
This is
feet's a
only
long
allowed in the C3 zone.
C3 zone.
That's the whole chapter we're looking at.
There's only. I
Highway
mean,
commercial.
where is that? Where is there a place where you got 500 feet?
That's not my problem.
Oh, okay. Sorry, sir. Lost my head.
Well,
If you want to buy up property, you can be 500 feet from it.
There you go. There you go. Just tear it down. Okay, gotcha. Sorry,
right.
sir. Lost my head.
just trying to understand.
Yep.
Yes, that's right.
Well, I'll give you a fine example. If they wanted to buy the fireworks building, they can go in there.
Yeah,
If they
but
wanted to buy Governors, they could go in there.
Governor's has within 500 feet, there's a private residence.
The way you would actually get there, no, because you'd have to come down College Avenue.
Oh,
to Stillwater.
this isn't front door to front door. This is.
The route of travel. Distance shall be measured from the main or principal entrance of the dispensary cultivation facility, the main or principal entrance to the synagogue via the most direct road or walking route.
And it's not
Okay.
near the Montessori school, I mean.
the most-
And that would be the cumulative distance, not the straight line distance.
Correct.
Right, okay.
So that means starting at their door, down the sidewalk, down the, okay, all right, then 500 feet
And that's
makes
kind of
sense.
similar to what you do with where you can set up your signs for voter registration at the polling places.
Right.
It's how you would walk there, not
Okay,
if I cut across everybody's yard, I can get there.
no,
Right,
I'm
I
glad we
gotcha.
went through that.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, and it's along the ground distance by definition, not horizontal, so,
Is it ground?
yeah, it would be measured along the ground.
I
it would
just
have to
a
be.
real
Like
wavy
the
driveway.
hours. just shows-
Okay,
I've added there shall be no more than one. That caused quite a bit of discussion between the city solicitor and myself, but in the end, we agreed that was a good number. Hours of operation, 8 AM to 8 PM, and that can be daily, Monday through Sunday. Sign ordinance, number 5, it'll conform to the sign ordinance for that location, which is in the C3 district, which is typically 1 square foot of signage for every linear foot of building that fronts on Stillwater. So if you had a 20-foot wide building or a 25-foot wide building, you could have 20 square foot of signage or 25 square foot of signage. The security measures I went through with the police chief, and actually all his officers have gone through this and added some beneficial opinions and facts in here. We're requiring surveillance cameras, inside, outside, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All entrances will be monitored. And that's a lot to keep people from breaking in that shouldn't be there. It helps us, but it also helps the facility operators. Burglar alarms on any opening that you could possibly squeeze through to get into the building. A safe within the building that's suitable for storage for all prepared and, excuse me, and/or processed. Now, that wouldn't be so much in the cultivation area, but a lot of this product ends up turning into food and/or prepackaged doses for the clients. Those have to be locked up at the end of the day. Exterior lighting, locks on all the doors, bars on the windows, and this was one that the city solicitor recommended that all recordings shall be preserved for not less than 30 days by the management of the licensed dispensary or facility. Then it goes on, and again, this kind of mirrors state statute about the consumption, ingestion, or inhalation on the property or within the facility. That's not allowed. Visibility of activities, control of emissions, disposal plan for medical marijuana. We go down through, and all activities of the medical marijuana registered dispensaries and/or cultivation facilities, including without limitation cultivating, growing, processing, shall be conducted indoors. So we're not gonna start having crops creep out into the University of Maine's field inadvertently and
okay.
Not that they're not already there.
Yeah, I found a few farms myself.
yeah, I'm sure you have. Nothing shall be displayed or kept as far as paraphernalia in a dispensary facility to be visible from outside the building. Sufficient measures and means of preventing smoke, odors, debris, dust, fluids, or other substance in the dispensary. And that's more because the product is usually a very high grade product. It needs, you just don't want that filtering out through when somebody opens the door or.
Right.
Oh, and then excuse me, number 4, a proper way if product, I don't know if there's an expiration date on it or not, but if they have to dispose of it, they have to have a proper plan for disposal. You can't just throw it in a
Well, you know,
paper bag and put it out on the sidewalk.
Certain, yeah, there's certain parts of the plant that have less
That aren't gonna be
THC,
used again, and,
so that would be burned or,
correct.
You see skunks around them.
well, it doesn't have the potency that the other stuff does.
Number 9 is no food product shall be sold, prepared, produced, or assembled by a medical marijuana registered dispensary except in compliance with all operation and other requirements of the state, local, and regulation, including but without limitation to food establishment licensing requirements. Any goods containing marijuana for human consumption shall be stored in secure areas. So we're not gonna have you be able to come in and you'll have your Betty Crocker brownies over here, and then prepared medical marijuana brownies, or, and I'm speaking, I'm fairly naive on this subject, so,
Yeah, of course you are.
for the record. And then, a medical marijuana registered dispensary and/or medical marijuana cultivation facilities shall meet all the operating and other requirements of state and local law and regulation to the extent the state of Maine has adopted or adopts in the future any stricter laws or regulations governing medical marijuana dispensaries, the stricter law or regulation shall control. So what that's saying is, if you're in operation today and the laws become more strict, that's what you're gonna have to adhere to. Your practices, it's retroactive, which
Right.
that's unusual for a lot of ordinances, but.
As I understand it, a medical doctor has to give a prescription for
Yes.
this to a patient.
To a
and-
patient, and then they are assigned a caregiver, and then the caregiver is the one that actually cultivates it. Then you have your dispensary folks that
So the
administer
patient
it.
isn't growing it themselves
No.
at home?
No.
Well, I thought there were other places where, you know, maybe other towns, where people could grow their own in their backyard, you know. and-
This ordinance as it's written has prohibited that.
Right, yeah, I know, but there may be other places where they can do
And
that.
there may be.
Sure they do, but it's not legal.
So,
I mean, if you have and again, I don't know a lot about this aspect, but if you can be licensed as a caregiver, you're allowed to have up to, I wanna say 6, but it may be 5 clients with 6 plants. And they can be in various stages. So there can be a lot of product.
yeah, and as I
At a grow
understand
site.
it, there's a real science to growing it indoors hydroponically, you know, I mean,
That's correct.
they fool the plant and make it concentrate the THC content. I saw it
And,
on
and some. they-
Discovery Channel, I think.
Yeah, and some they take the THC away from it because that's not what this particular page, I do think there is a proven science that in some cases this works very well.
Well, no, yeah, for chemotherapy patients, I've heard,
Yeah,
and others having chronic
glaucoma, I mean, there's a whole host of
Yeah,
things.
chronic
And
pain,
it's,
so we certainly, we don't wanna exclude it.
correct.
We've done all but exclude it, with our ordinance, but, you know, it isn't excluded. There is a place they can do it.
And we may find in 5 years from now, this ordinance is just pages in a book because the state's legalized it for everybody. Who knows what will happen. But
Yeah.
This
yeah.
is just a way to kind of open the door so that someone can operate a business that there is a need for, my understanding, and
And there is some control over
And there's a little bit of control over it. Other than everybody opening up storefronts down here and closing off the second and third floors just to,
Yeah, which obviously would be inappropriate for a downtown location, well, a lot of locations.
a lot of locations.
The one thing, that I didn't notice when I looked through it was, I thought it was gonna apply to other zones besides the C3. And,
And I weighed back and forth on that to have one in one area as far as a dispensary, and then one in another area, which would have been the R3, because we allow greenhouses there, but it's not a greenhouse. It's a cultivating facility that, it's a lot more high-tech than growing your mums out in the backyard.
So there can only be one in the city,
One in
and
the
it
city.
has to be in
but I'm
C3.
just thinking it'd be a great place for Juniper Ridge. Could,
There's some good potting soil out there,
And-
no
and-
pun intended.
Good stuff, yeah, so.
So that's what I have for you folks, and it was interesting to read all the ins and outs. Some of it I was fortunate enough to be able to utilize from my past life, not in the medical marijuana, but my code enforcement past life.
On the sign part of this that you had about the ordinance and the sign piece, is there anything that indicates that you should not or should put the word marijuana in the title on that sign? Does it matter, do you think? Should it?
No, well, and most of them don't, they have, it could be the holistic healing place, or most of them just want a name for their business. And as you get your licensing and you seek out your caregiver, then you know where to go. So it's not a real, there won't be a big pot leaf on the window or,
Right. Does it preclude the ability to have a residence inside that building too? It says pre-existing can't be close, but if a proprietor wanted to have a residence in the facility, is that allowed or is that advised or? I'm just asking, I mean, I
That-
didn't see anything said there, but I'm just curious. Cause you talk about security and all that, and if I had that type of a business, I think probably
If
I'd
it-
wanna live on the premises. I mean, it's silent on that, so it probably doesn't matter, does it?
I would say, typically I was going with the C3 with their regulations, and they don't allow for that.
They don't allow residents, okay, all right.
There's very few, other than residential areas. Industrial does, in case they have a gatekeeper's
Right,
apartment.
that's what I was kinda thinking here.
The
is-
landfill also, to Juniper Ridge, that has if you have a on-site that they stay there, those days are kinda gone. You don't really have a resident gatekeeper
Okay,
anymore.
well, I
It's
didn't
shift
know in
work
these
and-
kinds of,
Yeah, I mean,
But in this
at our
zone-
office, for the Huber Resources, we've got a bunk room for foresters that are coming from up north that stay overnight. We
Yeah.
got that permitted through the city.
And in looking at that, and even if somebody had something in one of these, if it's not a residence, if it's a place that you're gonna sleep during the night, just as a security
Right.
type officer,
okay,
I'd figure that would be so ancillary to this use that
Okay.
I wouldn't get concerned with it.
Okay, so it is permitted, but not a residence. They get a place where they can stay if necessary for
Yeah.
security, but you can't live there.
Not
Right.
with-
You-
Okay. All right.
is there any suggested ways too of how much space is needed for the cultivation operation? I know you have in here 15 square feet per customer, or,
That's, yeah,
but nothing about the size of how many plants, there's no regulation on how many plants or other things that,
that's under the caregiver licenses,
okay,
which
I've-
when we go back into the definitions, when they're licensed as a facility, that dictates
okay.
how many caregivers, how many
How many
plants.
Oh, so if I'm a caregiver for this, I would be assigned to this dispensary, and then there are 20 of us, let's say, that are, so then that's the limitation, so it'd be 15 times 2, which is 30 times 20?
No,
Oh, okay.
no.
I'm just trying to see if there was, what the sizes would be. I mean, I know we have setback requirements and all that, but could we have a,
It could be as large or as small. You could have one caregiver, and he's limited to his 5 clients, 6 plants per client. we'd need 15 square feet for his 6 clients in the dispensary area. If you've got 10 of those, it just keeps multiplying. So could
We're
it,
talking about cultivation, we're talking about must be done on this premises. It cannot have an ancillary premises that's dispensed out of this
it could be a
location.
separate building, but it all has to be, it's gonna be contained on the same lot,
Okay, okay,
one location.
all right. So
And
that's what the
there's no
reference-
consuming of the medical marijuana on site. It all has to be
You take it home and,
Yeah.
cash and carry. And they have to have a prescription.
right.
Okay.
And to learn more, the University of Augusta is now offering courses.
Really?
And I don't know if it's through the, it's at the University of Maine at Augusta. I don't know if it's a course they're teaching or they're offering space.
At the Bangor campus or the Augusta?
I think it's the Bangor campus.
Well,
But it's becoming a science that
well, it's like.
push back as you will, and someday we may all think, God, I'm glad they allow this, or, oh, we may
Well,
never need
it's
it, or.
like any other medication. I mean, they, and it does have, there's no question it has positive effects on certain people, for certain conditions.
Just like alcohol, I mean, you couldn't buy
Yeah.
alcohol.
Well, they tried prohibition and that didn't work,
That didn't
so
work.
I think that's where we're going with this. The same thing.
So I guess, any questions?
Well, I'd just like
So-
to say it looks like you did a lot of work and it's really a good job.
Yeah, it's very, very comprehensive and
It was interesting.
limiting. So then I take it that for the members present tonight on the board, planning board, we're tasked to make a motion to approve this language as written or as
Or if you
changed.
want to change it, yep.
And then that goes to the city council.
That is correct.
I'll make a motion that we approve the ordinance, from case 1516 as, suggested or as presented to us for zoning ordinance amendments.
Do we have a second?
We'll second it. I'll second it.
Okay, Sandra seconds that. So we have a motion to approve the zoning ordinance for medical marijuana registered dispensaries and cultivation facilities, and a second.
And this is to be
I
presented.
guess the only thing is that in the future that, we could modify this possibly to allow it in other zones, such
Oh,
as
yeah.
the R3.
Oh, yeah.
If,
If we find that need, but
okay, so it could be, right now, we're sticking with the C3 for now, and
in one use.
one
facility.
facility in the
City,
city of Old Town.
Where did-
Okay,
Where did that come from? The one facility? Why is that?
Because that is what I wrote. That was me.
well, yeah.
And this will
And-
be presented to the council?
Yeah.
This is so limiting in its language that, I mean, we probably won't have one or any, but why?
How are you gonna fight this? How are you gonna come to me, and I'd rather not have that discussion right now, but
Well, I'm not fighting it, I'm
no,
just.
no, I don't mean that, but I'd rather not discuss that right now. It's been reviewed by the city solicitor and given its blessing.
Okay, I understand. Well, we'll certainly limit it, and we wouldn't want one on every street corner, and,
Right.
and that would be difficult to control. This is reasonable for any municipality to
I
control.
will tell you, it's passed the legal test
Okay,
in other communities.
and this is it's not impossible, it's just regulated. Okay. Well, we have a motion and a second on the floor to accept the ordinance as written by Dave and approved by legal and the police and all the others that have looked at it, including us. Any further discussion?
Can I ask more questions?
Oh, yeah.
The food products, does that say that if there's gonna make brownies or what have you, it has to be the same as if Johnny's Pizza or somewhere
Breeze
has to
Bakery.
go through the same, that all has to be in place also?
Yes.
Okay,
As
that's
far-
what that
as-
means.
yes. As far as kitchen safety and
But not to the same
not to a
super
restaurant, right.
quality, okay, all right.
It's just, it's more the cleanliness, the way you clean up your baking areas.
Right,
And those manufactured products have to be made at that facility, cannot be brought in
from
from elsewhere. to be-
elsewhere.
Okay.
Have to be separated from anything that
And any
doesn't
other
have-
food product.
Suzy
if they
Q
may
and
have
Little
that,
Debbie,
which-
yeah.
That was probably a bad analogy.
No, and finally, the safe, that can be a vault, that can be,
Correct.
it
A
doesn't
sec-
necessarily have to be a $1 million safe or
A secured area that's locked.
that prevents entry.
Correct. And really nothing is fail,
Right.
fail-proof,
No, no, no,
but with the alarm system indications in here and the cameras,
It's pretty much the same standard as, say, the Hannaford's Pharmacy,
Right.
I'm assuming.
you get the roll-down
For security,
windows, I
yeah.
mean,
There's a
you
lot
can
of
get into
backup
those.
here.
What's that?
There's a lot of backup here when the alarm goes off.
Right.
Okay, well, we still have motion on the floor and a second, and we've had some questions and discussion. Are there any other concerns or questions? All in favor of the motion on the floor? Opposed?
No, I'm in favor.
You're in favor, okay, so it's, okay.
Right there on the hairy edge of in favor.
Well, it's up to you.
No.
If you don't vote in favor, because we only have a quorum of 4, it would not pass. We have to have 4
I
in
understand.
favor of it. So, are you okay with that?
I'm okay with that.
Okay, so, going once, going twice? Okay.
New business, and I'm gonna bring it up. We changed the ordinance for detached structures where we could allow them 3 foot from the sideline without coming to the planning board.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have a woman that's approached me that would really like to have an attachment put to her house and not have to meet the 10-foot setback. My answer to her was no. She said, well, can I take it to the planning board? Is it a waste of time? Because it's not a detached structure. The whole purpose of the setbacks is if you have a shed here and your neighbor's house is on fire, they don't really care. The fire department can concentrate on this house and not. When it's part of your house, now they have 2 structures, one to put a fire out
They
and one
need
to
a
protect.
minimum of 10 feet.
And that gives them 20 feet between
Right.
the habitable structures. Is it something you want her to come in and talk to us about, or
Well,
or if I tell her that the 10 feet is what it is?
I mean, the logic is, and obviously, where is it? Is it in an R1 or R2?
Yeah, it's over right near the park on, not Jefferson Street, but the playground.
Well,
Would
that's exactly what that ordinance was written for, and we modified it down from 10 feet down to 3 feet for outbuildings.
Right.
For that very purpose, because people wanted to build garages and sheds and
Correct, and
with
some
their
of this-
lawnmower, and they
Tight,
wanted,
tight.
and the reason, when that first came up, was that they didn't want to have to store gasoline for the lawnmower and paint and all that stuff in their house. They want, and so with limited lot size on French Island, what have you,
Oh, yeah,
they needed to have room to do that, so that's why we allowed it within 3 feet as long as their neighbor agreed with it. And that-
And we've been doing that, now we've just changed it, so it doesn't need to come to you folks every time.
That's
unless-
right.
Unless I look at something that's sketchy,
And that's exactly why we did that, because it was a special exception that, my God, we had dozens of them.
so I can tell her that from a planning board's,
Well, wait a minute.
That's the way
Did
it
you
is.
visit the site?
oh yeah,
And if she builds this, it's the next house is close to it, or is?
Yeah.
Or the house, so it's right next to it?
No, right now,
No, I
they're-
fully support the 10-foot
Yeah.
setback
Yeah.
when it
You need
comes
to tell her
to.
that's.
Same.
right now, the neighbors, 10 foot to their line. If you come off her home, she has about maybe 10 feet that she could add on to it that would keep her with her 10-foot setback. But she wants to crowd that over to 3 feet from this line, which would give us 13 between the houses.
The whole purpose of that, well, French Island is the reason for that.
Yeah.
And that's also the reason we gave them the 3 feet. But that,
Because the lots are so small and you need a place to tuck
and
something
you know,
away.
you get a good fire going on a windy day and that whole island
Yeah.
goes up.
Yeah.
I'd rather have the firefighters paying attention to this home than having to worry about.
Yep, no, I mean, that's the reason.
Now, she does have, after, I'll tell her that that's, with your blessings, that that's not something that this board wants to entertain. If she wants to go to the Board of Appeals, I don't think they have the authority to do that.
Well, I mean, we
Because-
had a lot of people that asked us to come up with a 3 feet, and we did years ago, before, you know, while you
For a
were in
specific
your
use.
previous life.
I would only entertain it if I thought that there was, the other structure was far enough away that it, but if that is not
And I
the
could
case,
understand that too, if we had
and I
another,
would entertain it, and then, but they would need the neighbor's variance and all of that, and then that would all have to be ironed out, but in this
Okay.
case, no, I would say that,
As a general rule, no.
no.
okay.
So, I mean, and that's just a life safety code.
It is, and that's what it's for, is to protect and protect. We
It-
don't,
not
again,
only-
we don't really care if a shed burns down
Right.
with a bicycle in it.
Right.
We don't want to take and have to be fighting
That's right,
two
and
fires.
it's not just what she can do on her property, it's how it would affect her neighbors' values and safety.
And you see that in the fire down at Bar Harbor, just,
Right.
they worked very, very hard to save those buildings on either side of that, because they are so close, and
Yeah,
so you can't concentrate and pay attention to what you're doing on one structure because you're worried about this, and now you've got guys scattered out, and, okay.
And it's a, you know, there's all kinds of standards for earthquakes and for, you know, all sorts of other, you know, life safety codes and the fire code. So, I mean, this isn't unprecedented. In fact, we relaxed it. So we aren't willing to relax it anymore
Okay,
for that reason,
I just wanted to hear that from you folks.
okay? I had a question. I don't know if it's, we want to talk about it in the, in the meeting, but, wanted to talk about condemning, living spaces, condemning, you know, and I'm speaking of Ella Page's place out there on Route 43.
Mm-hmm.
She had a trailer out there, she's 86, and, is that something that we should discuss here, or should we, I just wanted to know a little more about,
No,
okay, all right. Well, having said that, then, do we have any other old or new business? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn?
second?
All in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you.